Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, 2 bodies recovered and 3 others still missing after a boat overturned in Kaduna River. Parents of affected students demand explanation from school. Vice President Osinbajo clarifies approval of NNPC fund, says loan authorizations given to NNPC for joint venture financing. Our big story tonight focuses on the implementation of the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan of the President's Buhari administration. And Israel announces decision to pull out of UNESCO hours after US withdrew from the world body.
On business news tonight, Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund recommends right fiscal and monetary policies as panacea for economic growth in sub-Saharan Africa.
On sports news, Abia Warriors appoint Brazilian coach Rafael Everton as new manager for the upcoming Nigeria Football League season.
And from Abuja, the nation's capital, Nigeria's Center for Disease Control distances itself from rumored vaccination against monkeypox. Says it's not behind any such exercise in any part of the country.
We begin tonight from Kaduna in northwest Nigeria, where local divers have recovered 2 bodies of the 5 students from a private secondary school who drowned in the Kaduna River, but others are still missing. The victims are reported to have slipped from an old barge and plunged into the water while on excursion at a waterworks facility in Kaduna River. According to the Executive Secretary of the State Emergency Management Agency, a search and rescue operation is ongoing to find the missing students.
Grieving parents, friends and relatives of some students of Victory International Secondary School feared to have drowned in the river Kaduna. About 73 students of the private school located in the state capital had gone on an excursion that took them to a waterworks facility on the Kaduna River. Part of the tour involved getting onto an old ferry at the riverside, but owing to the unstable and slippery condition of the vessel, 9 of the youngsters slipped and plunged into the water. 5 of them were swept away by the strong current, while 4 were rescued, including this girl.
There's one iron boat that was there with generator. When the generator was there, he now told us that we should climb the stairs. Not that the place was too sleepy. So he now told us to climb it. He now asked us to climb. All of us now climb on top of the stairs. When we now climb, the place was going down. So that was why we now enter inside the water. Because I was among them that was inside the water. So the boats now hold me on my 2 legs. So the both of them were trying to push me out to come out. So it was they tried to push me. I was struggling to come out. That was when the 2 men now draw us out. They now saved some people.
The angry parents vent their frustration as they demand the return of their children alive, accusing the school's management of gross negligence.
Produce my son. I need my son alive. I didn't sign for this, what's it called? The water board of a thing. I am saying it for the whole world to hear. I did not sign. I don't have any problem with the water corporation because I never had any contractual of this thing with them. It is the school I gave my child. And I don't expect my child to go beyond this school.
For the officials of the Kaduna State Emergency Management Agency, the best they can do now is try to recover the bodies of the missing children.
They were on an excursion and mistakenly something went wrong technically and 9 students were drowned. But information reaching us, we swung into action immediately. About an hour later, but we were able to rescue 4 out of the 9 students. We will do the best we could to see that we recover this body.
as the search for the presumably drowned students continues. The Kaduna River tragedy reaffirms the necessity of taking full safety precautions before exposing school children to potentially hazardous ventures.
Such a heartbreaking story. Strengthen relationships across borders and share intelligence in order to curb global terrorism. That is President Muhammadu Buhari's charge to world leaders during a ceremony at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, in honor of the Egyptian ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Asim El-Sifi, who presented his letter of credence to him. The president predicated his call for global collaboration and review of security architecture across countries on recent attacks in the United Kingdom. President Buhari praised the efforts of global leaders in bringing the Boko Haram attacks within West African countries under control. He also urges the new ambassador to expand and deepen the existing bilateral relations between Nigeria and Egypt. The new ambassador reassured the president that he would build partnerships towards tackling the security challenges facing both countries. Meanwhile, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, did append his signature to at least 2 ventures from the NNPC while he was acting president, but he's insisting that the approvals were specifically for financing joint ventures through loans and not contract. His reaction comes in the wake of the scandal rocking the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. The Minister of State for Petroleum, Mr. Ibe Kachuku, had accused the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Dr. Mekanti Baru, of awarding contracts without due process, an allegation which was denied by the NNPC. Earlier, the Vice President's spokesperson, Laolo Akonde, had tweeted that the Vice President approved the joint venture financing in his capacity as acting president in July.
We're financing loans, that joint venture loans, and of course, you know what joint venture loans are. They loan the IOCs, Chevron, any that's Egypt. So they have, joint venture loans that have to be procured. So in some cases, NNPC and their joint venture partners have to secure loans, and they need authorization to secure those loans. While the president was away, I granted the authorization, which is what the law provides. The law actually provides for those authorizations. So I did grant all of those. In fact, there were 2 of them, but those are presidential approvals, but they are specifically for financing of the joint ventures, and they are loans, not contracts. Not contract, loans. Thank you.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. As the debate over corporate governance and due process in the state-owned oil firm NNPC continues, analysts are divided over the contract controversy, especially with the latest coming from the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. An expert, Mwazu Mogaji, believes Professor Osinbajo's action is in order, but a constitutional lawyer, Eze Onyekpere, disagrees, saying the presidency is causing more confusion than helping the corporation. Both of them were guests on our current affairs program, Politics Today.
If the president has been approached that, look, this investment is required, and by virtue of his substantive position as the board chairman, referred NNPC to the vice president, who then was acting president, to authorize them to consummate this partnership. And I remember very well in the minutes, in the press statement given by the Vice President's office, they say it is an approval of basically a preparation after due diligence to proceed with the protocol of securing and procuring this loan. So now we need to look at, clearly there is legality in terms of the authority that is deployed to consummate this transaction. However, the question is, this transaction as a whole, we should be looking more deeper into the transaction as regards to its value and its strategic importance and implication to the country. And I think that is where we need to focus on. Protocol of approval, I think, has been followed. NNPC was involved. The minister has been involved. The acting president has been involved. And these are the authorities required to approve any transaction.
Trying to say that Mr. President approved per se does not obviate the need for the board to meet. Mr. President is not the board. If he were still around, he will still be a member of the board. And you cannot, on his own, unilaterally take a decision. So if there was no board meeting, what he's saying is wrong in law, with utmost respect. I'm talking law here. I'm not talking sentiments. So in essence, If the board has the power to manage the affairs of an MPC, subject to the operational powers of the directors and the group managing director, and the fact that any loan or any contract or anything of that magnitude, you can imagine Mr. President is coming to the National Assembly to ask for a 5.5 billion loan to fund the operations of the budget 2017. And we are discussing a loan, money that's in excess of $3 billion. And you are saying somebody can unilaterally approve in his capacity as who?
As the 23rd Nigerian Economic Summit closes, experts agree that the multiplicity of cultures and ethnic groups in the country present unique challenges which must be handled wisely in the pursuit of sustainable economic growth. They also observe that wide consultation is necessary in the formulation of policy and the exercise of power to actualize policy objectives for growth. Our correspondent, Ajuri Ngalali, reports.
Facts, figures, and projections are tangible. Intangible but critically important are the bonds which bind a nation together. Given recent tensions over what some describe as overt ethnic bias in public service appointments and long-delayed responses to certain corruption matters, panelists say demonstrative action toward unity is worth more than 1,000,000 words.
We cannot at all not have a fair sense of urgency. The fair sense of urgency would mean that we discuss even the most painful of things. We must discuss our failure. This failure is too bad. We can't, you see, the diplomacy around failure must end. So we discuss our failure and why we must stop failing. Then we say, is it better to be small units with borders or to be a large population that works? Data tells us that it is better to be a large population that works.
Improve financial inclusion is also
detailing plans to resell shares of power distribution companies. One panelist asserts that the Economic Growth and Recovery Plan was one based on wide consultation.
The ERGP itself was built together with the private sector. And every quarter we have a meeting and discuss one aspect of business or the other. What is the purpose of that? Trying to find out what are the challenges, how do we remove them? And we're not sitting back and assuming we know the challenges. So we engage the private sector. What problems do you have? How do you think we should address it? And then we come to a consensus and we'll move forward.
Private sector players opine that economic inclusion is important not just for the excluded, but more so for those who are economic participants.
Because if we make the case that we are doing this as a charity, that we are doing it because we care about those who are excluded and we want to help them, then the motivation to really do this would be weak. That's the reality. Charity has never created economic growth anywhere in the world.
While statistics indicate economic growth, panelists agree that sustainable growth will require a united nation in which all Nigerians participate and are respected equally. Ajuri Ngalali, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, World Bank makes case for increased investments in human capital, plus more updates by Channels Television's business news editor, Bosun Omofaye, from the IMF World Bank Summit in Washington, D.C. Please stay with us.